Clearly, this is an Anand versus Marcevich, a very big game in this tournament. Very exciting battle. Let's go through it. Okay, Moro plays the Najdorf. And, of course, Anand is the world's greatest expert, especially on this particular variation of the Najdorf. He's exceptionally well versed in this whole variation. Okay, so Moro is playing real solidly, putting his pieces on good squares. And now white forces the black knight to commit, to jump in. And white develops and gets rid of his so-called bad bishop. And now he plays a real good, simple decision here. Rook takes d5. And white's basic aim here, he needs to maneuver this knight, this badly placed knight, on b3 to some other square, notably maybe c3 is the main square. If he can maneuver it successfully, then he gets the better game. Well, now Moro plays f5, developing counterplay on the f file, and must take. Now, knight takes f6 was a possibility, but then white can play either rook d3 straight away or queen g2, threatening checkmate, followed by rook d3. Looks to me like maybe white has a slight edge based on the d pawn is a bit weaker than the f pawn, and white's bishop is a little better than the black squared bishop. And white has 3 center pawns, c, f, and e. Black only has 2. Okay, so structurally white has a very small advantage, and his pieces stand a little bit better too. Anyway, Moro played rook takes f6. Very direct, common sense continuation. And now he's got a potentially bad bishop against what currently a bad knight that actually has prospects, as we soon discover. Vichy retreats the rook where it defends f3 adequately, and also in some cases maybe rook c3. It's very active on the third rank, ideal square for that rook. Now Moro begins a plan to begin pressure on f3. And Anand begins his maneuver. That knight's destined to hop to a2 and c3 later on. Okay, Moro puts all his eggs on pressure on the f3 basket. White plays a3, proceeding with his plan. Black played king h8. We had some talk. I thought bishop d8 was a possibility here, with the idea of knight a2 and then queen, I think it was queen f7, pressuring f3. And if white plays, let's say, rook f3, black can play bishop b6. And if white takes the rook, black plays bishop d4, and it looks to me like he would have a pretty decent counterplay for the pawn. Instead, he elected to play king h8, also probably a useful move. But now Anand goes directly for his strategic plan of occupying d5. Moro tries to stir up play on it against f3. Now, if rook f1, black has the petite combination. Rook takes e4, and if queen takes f1, and if f takes, also queen takes f1. So white must defend the f pawn with rook g3. Answered by queen h5, maintaining his pressure. Now he's planning to bring the rook over to h4. Now Anand had this option, knight c3, which could have been actually met strongly by rook h4. Now h2 becomes fatally weak. So he takes care to cover the threat of rook h4. Also, he threatens g7. Black answers with rook h4. Okay, and now if rook takes g7, that would be bad on account of rook takes h2. So h3 is necessary. And Moro now defends g7. prepares a slow plan of withdrawing the rook and bringing the bishop on g5 to f4 to attack the rook on g3. Now, Vichy undermines those neglected pawns on the queen side, and so they're under direct attack. Black played rook h5. He's got to do that. And now knight takes a6 was definitely a possibility. But the situation is still very cloudy after bishop g5, queen e2, maybe bishop f4, followed by rook takes h2. Black has very significant counterplay here. In some cases, he might even throw in d5 to line up an attack and create counterplay in the center and line up an attack against that knight. So Vichy played it a little safe. He played queen f1 first. Now Moro played rook h4. That threatens rook takes e4, and now Vichy repeated. And that's Black's basically offering a draw, but Vichy goes for the sign of a champion. He's got confidence in his position, but now the position does become tricky. So White wins his pawn. And now Moro starts trying desperately to create some counterplay. Starting with bishop h4. Now that pawn on h3 is going to fall. And here it comes. And there were numerous possibilities here for Black. Including rook h1 check and queen c1 was a thought. But Moro elected to play bishop d8. Not sure why he didn't go for this. It looked a little bit tricky. One idea there is rook e3 at the right moment. Instead, and of course, both sides were in a mild time pressure. Played bishop d8. Now that's a rather awkward pin for Moro to deal with. But he does come through on f3, so he's got two connected passers. White has two connected passers. He plays the only move. Now, rook g2, rook g1 would have lost, probably, to rook f1 check, rook takes f1, queen takes f1 check, queen takes, rook takes f1 check, king a2, h4. And if rook takes d8 check, king h7, the h-pawn just cannot be stopped. Well, maybe it could have been stopped. But I have to say that looks like Black has at least a draw here. At any rate, it's a dangerous line for White, and Vichy played the correct move. Rook g2, definitely an improvement. And now Moro, I think, I thought he could have put up tough resistance with queen e6. And one line that we checked was queen a8, bishop e7, and now I believe it was queen b7, threatening the bishop, rook takes b8 check, queen takes b8 check. Actually, Black could even play bishop f8 here. And I'd say White can try to queen. Then this queen h3 move was intriguing. It's anybody's game, to be honest. It really is quite possibly this could be a draw. But instead, Moro played h4, and of course these variations. There's many other possibilities after queen e6. I know rook h2 immediately is definitely reasonable too. That stops the queen h3 maneuvers. In that case, maybe black could play g6, something like that. Instead, Moro played h4, and that's where we are now. He gave up that d-pawn, and well, now here Moro's in deep trouble. And white played queen takes e5, and again, we thought rook takes b8 was a better try. Queen takes b8 check, and now bishop f8. Better try than what happened. King h7 is a mistake. It allows queen c7. I think that pretty much ends it. And then we've reached this position, which actually this is a variation Mig and I had gone over. Now white's threatening e6, e7, which show devastating consequences. Let's say king h6, e6, king h5. Well, rook e4 is going to win a piece, and now the past pawns are all black has going for him. I suppose h3 or g5 now. Looks pretty hopeless. e7, bishop takes, rook takes e7. Go pawns go, but they're not. Are they going to go too far? Maybe you should go play king g6 to keep the rook from getting behind. Perhaps white plays rook. Now let's push a pawn ourselves. b4, h3. Rook e3, h2, rook h3, g4, rook h8, king g7, rook h4, g3, knight e3. Actually, it's a lot closer than I thought it might be. It's a little too close for comfort, but white's having to rely on these checks. King g6, b5, rook e3, for instance. Ooh. So after e5, king h6, e6, g5. Rook e4, it's hard to argue with that one. h3 is hard to argue too. So e7, bishop takes e7. Knight takes e7. h2, knight f5. The idea of knight g3 check. And if rook g1, white black, I would have rook a1 check. What am I? Well, it's knight's check. Sorry, thank gosh. Okay, king g6, knight, where does that knight go? Knight g3, rook g1, rook e2, rook takes knight, rook takes pawn. Looks like white wins. Too many pawns over here. And there's still some work for Vichy here. But I don't think there's much work now. That must be a major waste of tempo. e6 just seems to win easily. Bishop f2, he plays rook e4, and there's no stopping e7. So it looks like Moro's just collapsing here. He had to try g5 or whatever. I mean, go king h6 and g5. So this looks like a almost certain win for Anand. That's definitely our game of the day. Thanks everyone for joining us. Stay tuned for more coverage of the FIDE World Championships from Mexico City here on Internet Chess Club. Thanks. This is Larry Christensen signing off.